phone over here. Come on, Insta.
I got my little scratch pad ready.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Gonna take some notes today.
I do every week.
Let's
I have
go.
I have a stack right here. I've got a stack of all
That's awesome.
of all the stuff from week after week after week of the stuff we talk about.
My goodness. That's bro. That's solid gold right there.
Whew. Or something.
Something like that. Something like that. As we would say in Southern Illinois. All right, let me save this. Update the title. Come on, Facebook. Don't mess with me now. There we go. All right. Okay, there we go. Insta's live now. Okay, so now I gotta go. Let me go over here and share to all the wonderful people that just love that I'm sharing it to them.
They do.
They really do. I feel like I might be having a little internet issue. I hope not.
Oh
Hope
boy.
that's not the deal. You know, it really is amazing, bro. When you think about it, we're in what year? Is this year 4? Are we in year 4? When did we start? 21? We started in 21, didn't we?
Yeah.
No, we started in 20, bro.
Coming out of COVID.
Jeez. It really is amazing that we're in year 4 and we've not had really any major technical issues. I shouldn't have said this. Why did I even bring this up?
That's like he hasn't missed a putt inside 3 feet all year.
That's like saying he's got a no-hitter.
Yeah.
Oh, stupid rookie mistake. What was I doing?
Well, either that or it's like break a leg type deal. Maybe you were just saying like break a leg, they say, type like people like going out on a show or whatever, break a leg. It's like,
right.
That's a dumb thing to say. No, it's like, no, we're actually, instead of saying, hope everything goes good, we're like, hey, go out there and screw up. People are like, what? And like,
what did he just say?
It's kind of like,
we don't believe
psychology.
In that. We don't believe in, as they say, I'm not superstitious, just a little stitious.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So we got all the shares over there.
We're not fate oriented. We don't believe in fate.
Ooh, not fate oriented. We're faith oriented. My God, come on, somebody. It's gonna be a good day. When you're busting out alliterations like that out the gate, bro, you already know.
The fatalities of fate oriented Christianity.
There we go. All right, let me update the deal on Twitter. Cause bro, we got it going on Twitter.
Twitter's happening.
Twitter be happening. And it does seem like we get quite a bit of watches on YouTube after the fact.
Really?
Yeah, so we appreciate that. Let me repost that. All right. So we got some folks on Twitter land, which is amazing and awesome. Okay. Dude, would you like to give us a weather report, Ken? We'd like to go to Ken Dillingham for our weather report on the ones.
See here? On the ones.
It was 10:21. So I had to come up with
on
something.
The ones. It's 10:01, 10:11, 10:21. Also known as every 10 minutes. Our chief meteorologist, Ken Starkey, checking in today. He says it's going to be 70 degrees with a high of 83 in Northeast Ohio. Thank you, Chief Meteorologist Ken Bistarkey.
It has been absolutely a glorious stretch of weather.
Beautimus.
We had our family fun day, Ken. I don't think even we talked about this. We had our family fun day on or not fun day, family day, FAC family day
Okay.
on Sunday. It was fun.
Yeah.
And
Just
it
wasn't called
was,
fun day.
bro, 71 degrees, nice breeze. It was amazing. When we did it 2 years ago. We served food outside and we set up the food line. So our family was going to do all the serving so everybody else could just connect and whatever.
Mhm.
And we set up the food line. It was in the shade when we set it up.
Mhm.
But I needed Ken Bastarkey to explain to me
Yes.
that the earth rotates, and
Mhm.
so it moves it out. So by noon,
What may
we
be
were
in the shade on the ones
exactly by
may not be in the shade
lunchtime.
on the twos.
And bro, I got scalded. The
Mm.
dome got scalded that day. So somebody gave me a mesh hat, and I had like mesh sunburn. It was amazing. Okay, I think we got everything shared out. I think we're good everywhere. Let me make sure over here. Let me pull up. Hold on a second. For some reason, it's not showing me. So it says we have some folks on YouTube. Somebody's on YouTube and can respond. That would be amazing. It says waiting. We're having some technical issues. Why is it not live on YouTube?
It's one of those things like raise your hand. Is everybody here? Raise your hand if you're not here.
Well,
If
it
you
says
can't hear us on
that
YouTube, leave a comment, please.
it says there are 2 people watching on YouTube, but when I go to do YouTube, it's saying waiting upcoming, but
Kelly's
it's
Kid
saying
More
it's
said good
streaming.
morning. So
Okay.
it must be there. All right.
All right, must just be me. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, that's YouTube. So
There it
sweet.
is.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate
We can move forward now.
we can do it. All right, you ready to go?
So ready.
Here we go. All right. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mobilized Church Podcast. This is Chris Dillingham alongside my big brother Ken Dillingham, Junior the Third, with a fresh haircut on today. And we need people to weigh in. You got it high and tight, going a little 80s high fade, high top fade. I'm
Yeah.
liking that, Ken. The only thing is this was my recommendation. I don't think you received it real well, but my recommendation was you need to let that back grow a little bit. Just get that mullet. Just get little high on top, a little long in the back.
You
Bro,
imagine.
you could pull that off.
I look dorky enough.
That's awesome.
I don't know how many mullet listeners we have in our podcast, but
You just offended all the mullet people.
hey, look, y'all look great. You look amazing. You look wonderful. It's just I would look a little dorky, I believe.
I have a confession. I
Yeah.
used to love like I know mullets are kind of in today, but it used to not be in.
Yeah.
And I used to, okay, just kind of confession.
Yeah.
When I'd see a good mullet in public, bro, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie, I'd take a picture.
Would you?
Yeah, because you can't beat a good mullet.
Well,
Sorry, I've got a file of some of the greatest mullets you've ever seen in public. So that's just one of those cool things. I think you could pull it off. You can
yeah.
do it, man.
Hey, you know what's funny is? So
Yeah.
what's funny? So here's what's amazing. So I actually, this is terrible.
Uh-oh.
But it's actually not a fade. It's just a demonstration of how gray I am. It's actually the
Is it?
same length. Yeah, it's actually the same length from here. It's like a 3 guard. So I'm like, it's like a half inch the whole way. So yeah, there's no
That's
fade going on.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's
That's
it's
awesome.
just showing the grayness, my man.
Yeah, well, there are worse things, Ken.
Yeah.
There are worse things, you know, so I really have very little pity for your complaints about gray hair this morning, and yes,
Neither
we are
do
brothers, we get that a lot, yes, we are brothers. I got the Pierce gene, you got the Dillingham gene, what are you gonna do about that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you just gotta
I. Hey,
embrace it, bro.
you know what? It's I mean, it's all there's there's give and takes in DNA.
That
You get
is that
that's a gray fade. That's a great
a
fade.
great fade. That's awesome. Gray apostrophe T, a
Yeah.
great fade. Thank you for that, John Hummel. That's
Yeah.
awesome, that's awesome. Alright, we're gonna get rolling here this morning because we got another great conversation today, and we wanna get right into it. So before you do
Let's do
that,
it.
let's just if people get a chance, hit the share button, hit the repost button, I think is what it's called on X now. I think it's called the repost. So
Oh.
hit the repost button or share it out, and, we welcome all of those that are watching, Ken.
Mm.
Facebook, we got right now Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and the Gram, all of them. We got people watching, so we certainly appreciate that. Hit the share button, let people know we are live and ready to rock and roll this morning. And I'm gonna send it to you. You've got a great topic for us to discuss today, and I'm gonna send it to you to let you just kind of set this thing up.
All right. Well, so if you've listened to us at any amount of time, you know that one of the things that we spend a lot of our effort and energy on is really hammering the idea of what a disciple is. A disciple, and by the way, for those of you that are maybe new to the podcast, when we say the definition of a disciple, really what we're saying is that the primary characteristic of a disciple, a definition,
Yes,
like the
right.
definition could write a book. You could write a book on that. Well, there's been many books. Like, what is the definition of a disciple? Well, I mean, a disciple has a lot of definitions and most of them real world, but for the principles and premise of discussion, we say that the core primary definition of a disciple is someone that's willing to let Jesus change what they care about. Ultimately, that's the sort of condensed version.
Yeah,
And how do we know what to care about? Well, what does Jesus care about? What do we know what is truth? What does Jesus call truth? What do we know what we should value? What does Jesus value? And so our if we value what Jesus values, then we have alignment. If we don't value what Jesus values, we have tension. And that tension is necessary. We need tension in our lives
sure,
because if we value things that Jesus doesn't value, or we don't value things in the way Jesus does, or if we don't call something truth, or we don't want something the way Jesus wants it, then in those areas we have to be put into tension so that the we're given the opportunity to put down what we value, or to place the proper importance. Sometimes it's not that you have to put it down. Sometimes it's just you don't value it the way he does. Like Paul said, bodily exercise profits little. There's a lot of people that put, like today, especially in our world, people are trying to, for years and years and years, people have been trying to find the fountain of youth. And so you've got these people that spend inordinate amount of time worrying about what they eat and how they eat and their exercise and blah 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 blah. Look, eventually we're all going the way of all flesh, and
sure,
so it's not that it doesn't matter, because the life that we have and the time we have here, we want it to be as healthy as possible. We don't, we don't want to put an undue burden on our loved ones unnecessarily through bad decisions of, what lifestyle and so on and so forth. So there's a value in it. But if we value it as a desire to never die, like
sure,
I'm gonna put that off as long as possible, it actually could be a faith issue. And so and so so there's a lot of different things. That do we value it the way he values it? Do we value it like how in the proper order, or way, or even at all? And so at the core of that, at the very core, is that word change.
mhm,
And we live in a world today where more and more, I think we're finding that people are drawing lines around what they what what they believe socially about things or politically about things. Particularly in 2024, we're going to be finding people drawing even more concrete lines around
Yeah.
their candidate or their view of the way the world should be, and so on and so forth. So anyway, um, and so in a world where people sort of draw lines around things, humans tend to draw lines around our time and our activities. We like to be we like things to be the way we want them. We don't like disruption. We as humans can be kind of closed off to new things, closed off to new ways of doing things, closed off to schedule disruptions and all of those things. So today what we're going to talk about and what we're going to discuss is, how open are you? How open are you as a believer of Jesus, a follower of Jesus? How open are you to Jesus coming in and changing what matters to you, changing what you care about? How capable, here's a good question. How capable are you to allow God to lead you by his spirit and to reach people who may be very much unlike you? It requires an openness. And Chris, let me just right out of the gate say that I very rarely found people that really are able to nuance and balance this well
Yeah.
in their life. There are some things I do think that we need to be, we need to have it settled. That is settled. I believe that. I believe what the scripture says about it. I'm not going to every single day go through and try to rehash it and, well, do I still believe that, and so on and so forth. And so there are places that things need to be settled, and which could be also closed minded. It's not
Sure.
really closed minded, but having a settled mindset about things, usually what you find is that people tend to be that way across the board. If
Yeah.
they've got their belief system settled and they've got the way they like things done settled and they've got it settled about, and it's just sort of, it's the type of person they are. I'm done, it's settled, over, not. And then it has to do with, are you open to this, are you open to, what can you do things differently? And so today let's just dive into this idea of, are you an open person? Are you open to what God's doing and open to new ways that the Lord might be leading and using you in this hour?
Man, it's so good. And as you were talking there, I hate to always go back to this, Kim, but I just can't get away from it. And it's the pendulum,
Yeah.
right? I mean, here you have a prime example where you have on one end of the spectrum, kind of that I am convinced, I have my beliefs, I know what I am, and I'm closed-minded because I know the answers to these things, right?
Yep.
Though, I mean, that's an important part of our relationship. I mean, the
Yeah.
discipleship process is exactly what you laid out there. It is relinquishing our way so that we now become submitted to his ways, and whatever his way is, regardless of what conventional wisdom is, regardless of what's happening culturally, regardless of what other people are doing around us, the Jesus way is the better way. It's the right way. And so I'm going to make that I'm going to believe what he says. I'm going to believe his ways. I'm going to all of those things. I'm going to be radically convinced in that, and there's not anything in the world and on the planet that can
Mhm.
move me
Mhm.
off of that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I mean, that's really what the essence of discipleship, the process of discipleship is relinquishing our way and becoming rooted and grounded in
Mhm.
his love, rooted and grounded in him, settled on those kinds of things, right?
Yep.
Which ironically, in order to do that, requires an openness of spirit. So you get on the other end of the spectrum, you
Yeah.
have to be open to be able to say, "You know what? I've lived my life this way for so long. I've believed this for so long. I've done this for so long, but I'm willing to be open to the fact that what I read in his word and what I know through his spirit
Mhm.
is the right way. So I'm going to let him change. So we have that settledness and then that openness, and you have polar opposite ends of the spectrum. And what can happen, Ken, is we can swing on those on the uh, polarized ends
Mhm.
and get to what you're talking about, to where we just get so closed off to anything and everything, or we become so open to anything and everything that
Right.
it then moves us off of the truth. So it's a really, I think it would be easy to simplify the conversation, but this is a really nuanced
This is
topic.
complex, bro.
It really is a complex thing because there is the balance. There's the balance of the center of truth, but there's also things that I need to be unmovable, unshakable off
Right.
of.
Right.
So how do we live in this world where we're unmovable and unshakable off of the things of God, but then we're open to other things that maybe have become intertwined
Mhm.
into our belief system, that it's
Mhm.
hard to segregate and separate out
Mhm.
what is what are the ways of Jesus? And then, like, maybe, so I'll use the easy one is like political, right?
Yeah.
Like my political beliefs and ideals. So sometimes those things get intertwined. And this is man, I'm excited about this topic because I think it's so critical. I think it's such an important thing. And I don't think it's as easy as we sometimes make it sound, if that makes sense.
It's very true. So maybe okay, so maybe this might be let's do this.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about and we really need our excuse me, we need our uh audience to weigh in on this here, but
We definitely need our audience. We
because I
love
think
the interaction.
yeah, I think this is one of those discussions that having a wider scope of input this would be something that would be awesome to have like a panel discussion on, which we do. That's our panel, our audience.
Yeah.
But okay, so I'm thinking about synonyms. I'm thinking, what does it mean? What does it mean when a person? What are we talking about when we say somebody who's sort of closed off?
Mhm.
Got it figured out. It's over.
Yeah.
Not discussing it anymore. Okay,
Yeah.
that is that is a person who I think it's different than being convinced. To me, that's a person who's just dug in.
Mhm.
Now,
Mm.
okay,
Mm.
so if a person's dug in, so this is the way sort of my mind is evolving it as you were talking.
Okay.
Okay, so you said somebody. So the Bible said, "Let every man be convinced in his own mind."
Yeah.
Okay, so being convinced about something, being convinced that God's word is true.
Yeah.
Period.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
God's word is true. That's it. Being convinced about something is like the positive piece. But what happens is that sometimes we have to be convinced against other people who aren't convinced or
Ooh. Okay.
people who are hostile,
Mhm.
people who have antipathy against what we're convinced about. It's not just that they're unconvinced about it. It's not just that they're, well, I don't know. I think, for me, the jury's still out on that.
Yeah.
There's a difference between that and having and having someone who says, I think you're an idiot for believing that. I think you're stupid. I think you're a bigot because you believe that.
Yeah.
You're whatever.
Yeah.
Now there's a whole different dynamic to being convinced,
Sure.
and that is to be dug in. And oftentimes people dig in against an opponent or they dig in against an opposing view. So to me, to be dug in results in being closed minded. And I think the more a person, I was doing a study recently, and I was studying and praying about that when that emotion is the solidifier, like epoxy.
Yeah.
When you have a two-part epoxy, one part is the glue part, and the other part is the hardener.
Right.
And to me, what I found is emotion is the hardener.
Okay.
So you have conviction
Yeah.
is being convinced about something that your faith has caused you to believe. You're all in on it.
Yeah.
Pistuo, right? We talk
Right.
about our faith. Faith isn't a belief system. Faith is all inness. Pistuo means to be all in on it.
Right.
So here's what I'm thinking. The more emotion that you feel about it, the more dug in you become, the more closed minded you become, because it hardens, right? It hardens that view.
Yeah.
So I'm in my mind right now, I'm starting to say, okay, so there's a difference between being closed minded and being convinced. What do you think of
Oh,
that?
I like that. I like that. Yeah, I definitely that makes sense in the emotional part, and we see that so much in our world today where, there's so much emotion, and then I think what happens sometimes is, that the what seems to be the counter perspective to what we believe or what we think, right? We feel like, well, there's a lot of emotion with that. And then what do? We respond in kind. And I think the conversation of what we're having today is I think, the question that I constantly ask is what does healthy look like? Because a disciple, when you produce fruit, you produce fruit because you're healthy. So the goal is I shouldn't be thinking how do I produce the fruit? I should be thinking how do I get to be a healthy disciple of
Mm,
Jesus so
yeah.
that the fruit is naturally produced in my life. And so then the question becomes, okay, what does healthy look like? Which is, I think, what you're saying. Healthy maybe is not just being closed off, but healthy is being I'm radically convinced, and um, somebody who's an antagonist against
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
is not going to move me. It's not going to
Right.
shake me because I'm totally convinced. It doesn't do anything to me because I'm totally and completely convinced. Which then gives, and what you're talking about, then gives you the ability to approach that person not from a place of what you often talk about, defending the ought, right? This is
Yeah.
where ought defenders come from, is because you feel the need to defend the ought. But when you're fully convinced, and this is what we see in the life of Jesus. Jesus didn't have to give answers in situations to people that seemingly, in his last moments of his life, asking questions to him, what is truth? Are you the king? Are you who you say you are? And Jesus didn't feel the need to justify or to explain or whatever, right? Because
Yeah.
why? Because he was convinced. He knew this was the will of God. He knew what his purpose was. He knew what he was doing, and he was convinced. I think sometimes we react and we respond so much because we're more closed off than we are convinced, and we feel that there's the opposite perspective is an existential threat
That's the thing.
to the belief, and our job is to defend that belief, or it threatens us. It threatens who we are and what we believe. When you're confident in your convictions, when you're confident in being convinced on something, I don't need to react or respond emotionally,
Yeah.
which then gives you the ability, bro. This is the key. That gives you the ability then. The openness allows you to understand where that person is coming from so that then you can take Jesus to that place rather than just responding to what you're hearing and seeing on the surface.
So that's so good, because I'm gonna go all in here on some
You're
things
gonna go
that,
pistuo?
yeah, for real. Like, okay, hold on, like, wow, Next Door.
Yeah,
Have you ever seen Next Door, the
yeah,
app?
yeah.
I have never seen, it's ruder than social media.
It is wild, bro. It is the Wild West.
Dude, on Next Door, somebody may post, somebody will post like they'll say the other night. Here's one. It's an exact one. Stephanie was telling me about this. Somebody posted and said, um, the neighbors were up until 1:30 in the morning in their swimming. They were swimming. They were at their pool. They were up till 1:30 in the morning. What should I do? What should I do about that? And it was hilarious. The
Yeah.
people's response. One person said, welcome, welcome to Beaver Creek. This is an area where there's still strong families and people are getting together.
Oh boy.
Another person said, you should be happy that it was a family enjoying a pool party and not gunshots. So another person's like, it was hilarious, dude. It was hilarious. One person said, I would wait to see if it happens 3 or 4 times. Then I would call the police. Somebody responded to that one and said, you're an idiot. Call the police? For God's sake, what have we become in society? You're going to call the police because people were having a pool party? You're an idiot. Like, I'm like, oh my God, it is hilarious.
Right.
Another person said, wow, this is an evidence of how society has gone to pot. That you're getting on next door to ask people what to do. You don't even have a relationship enough with your neighbor to go over and say, hey, I'm glad you were having fun, but do you mind to shut it down a little earlier? And man, it was so crazy. And
That
if
is awesome.
somebody would make a statement and then somebody else would turn around and be like, I think you're a dork.
Yeah, quit being a Karen.
Right. And there was one where one guy makes a statement and somebody responds to him like kind of like that. Like, well, you just need to, whatever. And the guy's like, what are you, you don't even know me. Come over here and say that to my face. You could say that, and they were like, he was literally calling the guy, like, come say that on my front lawn and let's see what happens, sucker.
Dude.
And
Bro.
I'm like,
That's the world. That's the world we live in.
And it was like, the guy was simply saying, holy cow, have you guys had problems? There's people in our neighborhood there's, and I don't know if it's one person or everybody, but is everybody walking their dog at midnight? Apparently I'm in bed because I wake up in the morning and there's dog poop all over my front lawn. People, do you not clean up your dog poop? Somebody's like, well, it could be a stray. What makes you think it's people not cleaning up the dog poop? And I'm like, oh my goodness. It's so hilarious.
Great entertainment.
And here's the deal. What I thought was so crazy was the moment someone puts out a state like they're so opinionated, I guess is my point.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is opinionated.
So
Nobody comes, and I don't, man, maybe it's just unique. I mean, some of you that are listening, maybe you could, if you've got next door or whatever, I don't even look at it anymore because it was entertaining. And then it just caused me to be like,
people are horrible neighbors. They're just terrible people.
I'm like, I'm sitting here thinking, golly, no wonder we're in a national crisis and can't figure it anyway. But the deal is people are so opinionated, and it's not like people say, they have a viewpoint and be like, well, I see where you're coming from, but why not just go over to the people's house? Like, every now and then somebody will say something that way,
Yeah.
but it often is almost like it's like supercharged with like emotional turbo boost.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why
digital
I think
courage is a big part of that, right?
See, but the thing about it is it's like, but is this the way people really are?
It's what they
Like
think.
socially, because this is one of the things that
Yeah. It's a
what
great
people
point.
always say, like, like, would you say that to my face? Oh yeah, keyboard commando. It's easy for you to be bold and whatever. You're probably some wimpy munchkin kid sitting over here, like, come over here, like, it's like this mindset that says you wouldn't say that to me at Kroger face to face.
Right.
Why are you saying? But the question then becomes, like, is this really people? Are they really that opinionated? And are they really? And so if that's the case, it's like nobody is considering what other people might be feeling. Nobody's considering how this might be interpreted, how
Yeah.
that might be taken, what the result of it might be. And I think, man, wow, what a great way to discuss, like, okay, so how is it, if this is maybe human nature, or maybe this is the way people have become in our society with social media? I don't know. But at the end of the day, this hostility, the Bible says,
Man, so this is such a great conversation.
because
This is such a
iniquity
needed one.
shall abound, the
Yeah.
love of many shall grow cold. Maybe that this is a sign of the end times. Maybe
Sure.
this is without natural affection. Maybe this is what it looks like when people get, when they're proud and disobedient and not lovers of parents and disrespectful. Like
I
like
think,
it's
man, that's a great point. I think pride may be a big one
yeah,
for the closed-mindedness, right?
yep,
Because I'm right, and I'm gonna let everybody know that I'm right. This is
yeah,
this is the way it should be done. If you all
right.
just listen to me,
Yeah, I'm telling you.
we wouldn't have any problems.
Yeah,
And there is even, like you said, even with the digital curves, like there is more of a boldness, I think, that's happening, and maybe this is kind of bringing that out of people, where publicly you're seeing confrontations, and you have these videos where all this stuff is happening, all the time. My family was taking a walk in our neighborhood on a dead end road back in our neighborhood, and there was what, 10 of us, and so like, yeah, we were in the street and whatever, but there were no cars, there's no traffic, and a lady pulled up, and we all got off to the side and whatever, and she started, or no, 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 she wasn't even driving, she was walking her dog on the sidewalk, and started making a comment, and I thought she was joking, but, like, she was rebuking us because we were walking in the street, in a dead end street.
that's what they make sidewalks for.
Right, we
Like,
can't all walk side by side on the sidewalk, like, we'd all be
you'd be
like
like, then they would accuse you of being out on a military march.
hogging, right, exactly, hogging the sidewalk or whatever, but
Yeah,
I do think there is a pride that
yeah,
says, I like things to be done my way, and man, I think there's a whole way, like, we could through a discipleship, spiritual conversation with people, I think that would be an important deal. So I think this relates and connects to our Oklahoma buddy, Sean Phillips'
yep,
comments. Acts 17:11. I love this one. He made another comment about laziness, and I do
yeah,
agree with this. I totally agree with this. It's easier to block something outside of what you've been convinced or have convinced themselves that it's a truth. I think that is a huge part of it, where,
yeah,
like, we surround ourselves with an echo chamber. The algorithms are all set echo chamber. We hear what, like, it reinforces what we think and what we believe, and then it pits groups against each other. But I
yes,
like what he said in Acts 17:11, receiving the word with readiness of mind, search the scriptures daily. The Amplified Version says, now these people were more noble or open-minded than those. And I do think, Ken, I really do think that it is some level of evidence of becoming more secular, where we're educated, right? So education has become kind of the highest God. Knowledge is the most important thing. Man, we got to get kids education. We got to get this. And so now all of a sudden I've got this information, I've got all this knowledge. So this is right. This is truth. I mean, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, look at the whole polarization that happened with the COVID vaccines,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
Like, we
yeah,
know, we
yeah,
know this is what's gonna happen, and man, it pit these groups against each other, and and it really is ultimately a pride to think that we have all of that stuff figured out. Outside, the only thing that's forever settled is God's word,
mm,
and yet people hold on to these beliefs and feelings, and then again, we can swing on that pendulum of feeling the need to defend emotionally because we feel it's being attacked.
Man. And the attack was often when people would, when people would say, boy, I don't know. I mean, there has just hadn't had a lot of time for research. I'm not sure about all this and whatever. And they're like, are you a doctor? You don't,
Right.
you don't have any, you have no expertise. And then, opposing views were being cut off from
Yeah.
social media and
Yeah.
whatever, and so on and so forth. And so then it made people yell louder.
Right.
You know,
Right. And
what
you
do
got
you
to push
do?
back harder.
What do you do when you feel, what is the most common response to feeling like you're losing a debate?
Yeah. You yell,
You give your
attack.
opinion louder, you get aggressive. And so, yeah, and even in counseling, the concept is this. The concept is that anger is the fruit of frustration.
Hmm.
Frustration is the feeling of not being in control. The
Mm.
desire to be in control is a desire to be able to control the outcomes, to be able to. so
Man, that's
so
so good.
so fear is at the root of that, right?
Yeah.
As humans, we have fear. We fear the future. We fear our security. We fear, right? As humans, there's a lot of things about our life that we have fear about. And so what happens? The more we have fear, the more we try to control. The more we try to control and don't feel like things are becoming the way we want them to be, then the more they result in frustration. We get
Sure.
frustrated. When we have fear in our life and we say, "I'm going to try to control the outcome so that to mitigate the fear," and the more we try to control the outcome, the less the outcome becomes the way we want it, which builds frustration. And then when frustration reaches a boiling point, it turns into anger.
That's
So,
so good,
I
man.
mean, that's anger is the fruit of fear.
Yeah.
And so, I think this is huge when we're talking about humility,
Yeah.
because humility allows us, this is a note I wrote, humility allows us to be aware of our own limitations.
Yeah.
And if Jesus said, love the Lord with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, then that takes care of the fear, because that creates an awareness that God's in control,
Yeah.
which then causes us to be convinced, not because we've convinced ourselves, but because we've been convinced of Him.
Mm.
That the beauty of, man, I feel revelation flowing right here. Revelation. Jesus says to Peter, blessed art thou, Simon Barjona, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my
Yeah.
Father which is in heaven. Peter was convinced about who Jesus was, not as an outcome of his own efforts, empirical efforts.
Yeah.
He didn't come to the knowledge of Jesus because flesh and blood had revealed it. He came to a knowledge of Jesus because it had been revealed to him. He was convinced and could stay humble because it was not the result of
Yeah.
his own effort. The result of our effort is, right? The result of our effort is we have acquired, we have achieved.
Mm.
Well, when you have achieved, then the result is pride. Look what I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So
Right.
when you've got a look what I did mentality, then pride comes, which is the original sin. It's Satan's favorite. It's his favorite trump card.
Yeah.
He triggers people through pride. So what happens is, I believe, is we love the Lord with all of our heart because we know He's revealed Himself. And then what about this, bro? What about this? Then we can love our neighbors as ourselves,
Yeah.
because
That's exactly right.
we've been convinced in our humility. And because we've been convinced in our humility, we understand it's not our own, it doesn't have any pride in it, because it's not the result of our own pursuits. I haven't arrived at this place. God's brought me here. God led me to this. God showed me this. And so you have a humility. You can still be convinced, but you don't have to be dug in. You don't have to be closed minded, because here's why. If you've arrived at that place and pride is central to that, then when somebody starts trying to pull away and pick away at it,
Yeah.
then you're going to feel like you've got to defend it
Yeah.
because 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 they're attacking your work,
Yeah.
which that's why the Bible says,
Yeah.
if any man
Oh, there you go.
if any man has entered into rest, he has ceased from his own works.
There you go.
And so they're picking apart your work. They're picking apart your central you. It's the very reason why
Ooh.
Cain slew Abel. Cain slew Abel. I feel revelation. Cain slew Abel because he brought what he wanted to God. It was the work of his hands. It was the product of his
Yeah.
of his life endeavors. And when God didn't accept it, he didn't accept him. And so Cain wasn't able to align himself with God. He wasn't able to be open because he was dug in and was defending himself. And rather than God says, look, before he ever slew Abel, God said to Cain, if you do what's right, you'll be accepted. Don't go down this road, Cain. Sin is crouching at the door. Don't
Right.
open that door, dude, because if you open the door, it's going to trigger some things that you don't want to happen. And so God tells Cain, but here's the deal. Cain isn't open to that.
Yeah.
Cain
Yeah.
isn't open to what God's telling him
Right.
because he's dug in because it's an attack on his essential self.
Phew, man, I literally was gonna ask you okay, so let's talk about and kind of filter through what is the discipleship posture? What's the disciple posture for this kind of thing? And I think you just went through it and just laid it out beautifully there. It all starts and begins with humility. As you're talking there, I was thinking about, like, Jesus was the model of all of this.
100%.
Jesus was the model of all of this in so many ways. You know, Jesus had the ability, I've often said this, Jesus had the ability to to, stay true to his convictions
Mhm.
and yet also not feel the need to validate himself when they bring to him the woman caught in adultery.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
are you gonna fulfill the law? Are you gonna do what the law says? And he had the ability to be true to his convictions and eat with publicans and sinners. You know what I'm saying? Like that came from the place of humility, and I think this is where it came from, is from John 14 when he said, "The things that I do, the things that I say, they're not my own."
Yeah.
Right? I'm submitted. God manifest in the
Bro,
flesh.
it's not my own.
It's not my own.
Peter,
I'm not doing my own works. I'm only doing and I'm only saying what the Father tells me to do and what the Father tells me to say. That keeps it from being, it's not my own works. It's not me doing it. I'm submitted to those ways, to those things. Even in his flesh, he was submitted to the ways of the Spirit. And that's the
let
model.
me
That's
pause
what.
this.
Yeah.
Abel's lamb
Yeah.
was not his own.
Right.
Abel's lamb was not the produce of anything that he did. The only thing that Abel could have said was, I I don't know. I mean, I could take it to grass, but its mom fed it.
Right.
I'm like, Abel couldn't claim anything to the lamb.
Right.
Cain could claim everything. I cultivated the soil. I planted the seed. I mean, he could even say I watered it.
Pull the weeds.
I mean, right? He could even say I found it. Yeah, I found. I went down and I created an irrigation trough and I
Yeah.
watered it and I mean, he could say I.
Yeah.
Abel could say this lamb is not of me. It's not from me. It's not right. So, like what you're saying is Jesus is saying, I don't do my own works. I only do the works that I see my Father doing. What is Jesus proclaiming there? He's proclaiming that what it is that he is and what it is that he's doing is the result of what he's been sent to do, what he's been called to do. It's been given to me. He says, of those disciples you gave me, I
Yeah.
haven't let one slip. They're firmly in my hand. Isn't that crazy, Chris? Like, if we could arrive at a place where we say, bro, look, you believer in Jesus, you spirit filled, water baptized, new birth experience, new creature, right? Like, man, be convinced. Be convinced. Don't, go ahead. Yes, be convinced, but don't get dug in, because the moment you start getting dug in, you start thinking this is the result of something you've done, and you
Mhm.
start protecting it, and you close off to other. No, I don't have to. Look, God's done this work. I don't have, like you said, Jesus didn't ever feel like he had to defend his messiahship. He
Right.
didn't. I mean, he didn't defend against to the Pharisees. In fact, when they said John's baptism, like, they said by what authority do you do these things?
Yeah.
What does Jesus say? All right, let me ask you a question. John's baptism. By what
Mhm.
authority did John do baptism? Was that from God or was that from man? And they said,
I'm
they
not saying
said,
a word.
what? They said,
Don't answer.
if we say it's from
Yep.
God, then they'll say,
Yep.
why didn't you obey him? If we say it's from man,
The
then
people are
the
gonna
people see him as a prophet. And so then they said, we can't say. And they said, and neither will I tell you where my authority comes from.
he was willing to be misunderstood.
Because why? Because he was unwilling to enter into the domain of he was unwilling to enter into their domain, which was personal product and works of righteousness.
Yeah. Right. Right. Exactly. And what was the whole mindset of the Pharisee? The only thing that's holding back messiahship is we're just not quite holy enough.
Yeah, our
We're just
goodness.
so our works, the things that we're doing, we're just not quite good enough. And if we can become just better, then the Messiah is going to come.
Yeah.
Which when Jesus comes along, and this is why, like, sometimes it gets confusing, and the Bible Project does a great job kind of breaking some of this down. But like, when Jesus comes along and says, "I came to fill up full the law,"
Yeah.
right? To fulfill the law, to fill it up to full. Oftentimes we have a hard time grasping that because it seems like he's contradicting some things. But what he was coming against was how the Pharisees had taken that and kept moving the goal line, right? Moving the
Yeah.
goalposts so that they would get good enough and their works would produce that the Messiah is going to come. And Jesus like, no, it's not. I am him. I've been sent. I've been sent. I've come in flesh to you, not because of your goodness. And so what happens, I think for us, we do the same thing, Ken.
Yeah.
We do the same thing where we feel like we have the need to defend it. And what happens is we get all emotional and we start pushing back against things that threaten
Yes.
what we feel like we have established and what we
Yes.
have built, and that somehow it's going to lead to the demise of the kingdom. And it's going to, like, oh, we can't let any of this, like, and I think this has affected discipleship. It's affected the mission because we felt like, well, we don't can't really associate with people that don't believe and think like us and whatever, which goes back again. This is why I think, and I want you to kind of maybe speak to this a little bit, but like the discipleship posture, that what we're saying is not that we should just be just so free and open-minded and whatever. We're saying, no, Jesus was so radically convinced in his purpose and mission and his identity and who he was, that miracles didn't validate him, right?
Yeah.
The approval of people didn't validate him. Hanging out with publicans and sinners didn't defile him. Touching lepers didn't defile him. None of that. The only thing that defined him was he fulfilling the purpose of why he was sent? Was he fulfilling the ways of the Father? Was he fulfilling the ways of the Spirit? Was the flesh submitted to that? He's giving us the model, Ken. That's the
Mm.
only thing that matters. And I think sometimes we become addicted to approval. We become, we have the need for what we do and what we accomplish validates us, and so we can't let anything kind of threaten that. So that discipleship posture is a place of humility. It says, I didn't produce this, I didn't make this, and the only thing that matters to me is I am radically convinced of the ways of God. And because I'm so radically convinced of the ways of God, it then allows me to go and connect with people that may believe the polar opposite.
Mhm.
And I don't feel the need to have to defend the ways of God.
Mhm.
I don't feel the need to have to condemn them. I don't feel the need to have to threaten them or whatever. My
Mhm.
job is to listen to where they're coming from, Francis Schaeffer, right?
Yeah.
And make it gospel to them to show them that Jesus is
Mhm.
the better way than the way you're doing it.
Mhm.
And we
Yeah.
have so many polarizing issues today. We've got the transgender thing, we've got gay
Mhm.
marriage, we've got, like, all of these things that produces a lot of emotion. Why? Because we feel it's a threat,
Mhm. To our belief
right?
system.
S Okay, so how do
It's
we
not
deal
a
with that?
threat. It's not a threat. Jesus
Right.
said, this is the thing. Jesus said, which is this is why I'm just bold on this one, this point. I'm bold on this point that I believe that the blending and blurring of the lines between, you know, like the kingdom of God is somehow some kind of merger. Like the kingdom of God somehow somewhere along the way there was a merger
Yeah,
between the bibliocentric Judeo-Christian belief system and um, the American patriotism. I
yeah,
guess maybe that's
yeah,
there's this there's a Judeo-Christian worldview and American patriotism, and the two of them had like a merger. And so modern American Christianity somehow, I don't know, somehow is this blended. Well, so here's the deal. What happens is then people start saying, well, I have to defend it because we're losing our American our America was a country that's founded on this. America was a country we don't, and then so what
yeah, there you go.
right? So then what
Yeah,
happens is there's this thing that says, that they're ruining our world. They're ruining our America. They're, so on and so forth.
mhm,
But Jesus said that our view is that the way we live are those as though we're not at home.
mhm.
We're
Yeah,
not at home here. We're kingdoms. We're citizens of another world.
yes.
And man, I listened to somebody sent me a clip, and it was I don't know, I don't even know what group it was. It was not a United Pentecostal Church deal. It wasn't, and I'm not even going to say if what I thought it was. Yep,
Yeah,
it was another. It was some other. It was some denominational whatever. And this dude was going hardcore, man. And he was basically just, whew, I mean, it was almost like he was the harder he could say it and the louder he could yell it and the
mhm,
more he could,
mhm,
it was like, and it was like, and the people were erupting. They were like, yes, like, but
yeah,
it was like a, 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 it was like a pep rally causing them to dig in
mhm.
on, we're not gonna this and we're not gonna that and we're not gonna,
Right,
and
right.
it's very strange because it felt very fleshly.
Mhm,
And it's sad that in some places, the more someone tries to communicate how convinced they are, the more it comes off
yeah.
that it's
They're
that they're
less.
they're planting their flag, and it's a turf war.
Sure.
And you got all these people who don't believe the Bible anymore. Well, we're going to tell you something. You're not
Yeah,
welcome here. And
yeah,
but the thing, my point is, and I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. I'm just simply saying that
yeah.
it demonstrates like that somehow closed mindedness in some ways, in some circles, has become a demonstration of being convinced.
Mm,
And to me, if you look at Jesus, you will find nobody more convinced. He was the word made flesh. You'll never have somebody more convinced. He didn't even have to be convinced. He wasn't convinced. He was the word made flesh.
right,
You don't have to convince the Bible that it's true. And
right.
But Jesus's humility allowed him to be compassionate.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. Jesus' humility allowed him to be compassionate. The very fact that he was convinced
Yep.
allowed him to say, I've not come to condemn the world.
Yeah.
What do you mean, Jesus? This world needs judged.
Yeah.
These people need to know they're wrong. These people that are pushing these people that are, like, do I believe it's egregious? Do I believe it's terrible? Does it break my heart to see these people trying to push, 7, 8, and 9 year olds to adopt a belief that you're not the gender you were born, and that they're trying to, give like double mastectomies to like 12-year-old girls that
Yeah.
are just barely, in
Yeah.
puberty?
Yeah.
Do I think that's egregious? Absolutely. It's a travesty, and
Sure.
it will one day be judged by Almighty God. But here's
Yeah.
what Jesus said. I've not come to condemn the world. Why? Not because Jesus was like, because I'm sweet and and I just want to love people and I
Yeah.
don't want to condemn everybody. No, what did Jesus say? I've not come to condemn the world because the world is condemned already.
Already. Right.
It is already in a
Right.
state of condemnation. The redemptive message is a message that pulls people out of the judgment. It pulls people out of their condemnation, and
Yeah.
it brings them into a place of redemption. So anyway, with that being said, I just let that be my final word. I just feel like ultimately, if we could reach a place where I think where our humility allows us to say, I'm convinced, but I'm compassionate, knowing that without the gospel, without Jesus, without the cross, they have no hope.
Yeah.
They're not, what they're doing is not going to. Jesus said, in this world you have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. In other words, the victory's done. It's it's
Yeah.
it's
It's a done
settled.
deal. It's a done deal.
So they're not, they may be, so here's the deal. They may be taking over government. They may be taking over the public school system. They may be, and you may want to say, we need to fight and take that back. And I think there's room for any of those kind of discussions. But at the end of the day, where the kingdom is, where as kingdom citizens, they're not confronting anything that it's done. Jesus has settled it, man. It's a done deal.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good. All right. So I'm going to I don't want to add anything to that, but just kind of put a synopsis on this. Okay.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is, as a disciple, my responsibility is to understand that that with humility,
Mhm.
the Lord is the one that's produced the work in me, the transformation in me.
Right.
He's the one that brought me to this knowledge and understanding. And as a disciple, I have a responsibility to be unwaveringly convinced
Yes.
and committed to his ways.
Yeah.
Whatever he says, right? And what we know is heaven and earth will pass away, but his word is forever settled in heaven. So I am I will not waver from his ways, and my life's commitment is to do everything I can to make his ways become my ways. Whatever I do, whatever I say, like his ways become my ways, and the only approval that I'm seeking is to please the Lord. That's ultimately my responsibility, and I'm not going to allow conventional wisdom or popular opinion or aggressive conversation, debate, whatever. I'm not going to allow those things to move me off of Jesus is the truth,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
When I become convinced of that, and I understand with humility that it's not me producing all of this, and I am unmovable and unshakable. I'm unmovable off of that. Then that gives me the ability to engage people with completely opposite perspectives and
Yeah.
opinions
Yeah.
without feeling the need to defend my position or my posture.
Yeah.
I'm able to engage with them in a way that says what I want to do is through my life and through relationship and through engagement that I want to show them that the Jesus way is the better way,
Hmm.
and give people an opportunity to experience the better way of Jesus. And that's the openness where I don't have to fight fire with fire.
Wow.
When people get vitriolic and they're protesting and they're this, like, I don't have to fight fire with fire. I can do what Jesus did and engage with that person on a personal level, find a way to make a gospel to them, and give them an opportunity to respond to the ways of Jesus, just like somebody gave me the opportunity. God gave me the opportunity to respond to that. That's does that sound right, Ken? The posture, the the healthy tension between closed-mindedness
Yeah.
and complete open-mindedness.
It's 100%. 100%. Yep. Cain, the Cain versus Abel thing, I think is a good pictorial. My product versus God's gift.
Mhm.
You know,
Yep.
God's gift with the lamb.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
was not the product of Abel. It was God. And so we look at it and we say, the fact that I know truth is God's gift.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Can't,
Awesome.
don't ever get to the place. Don't ever get to the place, folks. Don't ever get to the place where we look at the Bible as a textbook and that somehow we have taken that textbook and we've mined out of that textbook the truths that have arrived us at a place of having a truth position. Let us get to a place where we understand that the Bible said that without his spirit drawing, we can't even come to him.
Right.
That the fact that there is a Bible is the fact that we acknowledge God's self-revelation.
Yeah.
If there's truth that we have gleaned from having a Bible, it is truth that has come to us as a result of God revealing it to us.
Yeah.
If God would have decided to never have written a Bible, then we would. So the truth is, the Bible's not a textbook. It's
Right.
not a truth textbook that you've arrived at some theological product, some doctrinal product where you can be proud of that.
Yeah.
It is. Have we received revelation? Yes. Have we become illuminated by God? Has he illuminated our minds so that we can see? Absolutely. It's his gift. The lamb is his gift. Redemption is his gift. It allows us then to stay humble, stay compassionate to those that don't know the truth that we know, compassionate to those that don't know the lamb the way we know the lamb. Abel understood that the lamb was given by God to be a substitution for something that he should suffer for.
Yeah.
And the lamb suffered on our behalf. It was substitutionary. What a gift. It causes us to stay humble. It causes us to look at people that no matter how harsh and malevolent they are, and how much antipathy and how much just vehemence they oppose the truth that we know.
Mhm.
There is no opposer to God's truth.
That's
In
right.
the end, there's only two positions. The rock remains unchanged.
Yeah.
You'll either fall on it and be broken, or the rock will fall on you and grind you to powder. That creates an unbelievable humility. It causes us, therefore, to become
Yeah.
open to the leading of the Lord, open to talk to people that aren't like us, open to have conversations with people that we may very, very deeply disagree, and say, you know what? They need an opportunity to meet the lamb. They need an opportunity to see the gift. They need an
Mhm.
opportunity to hear the revelation of truth that God has given and to respond to it
Yeah.
based on their faith.
Yeah. Man, so good. So good. Just a couple of things here to wrap up before we go. Some great comments. We appreciate the engagement today, conversations on all the different platforms. Our good buddy, a great young evangelist, Jay Emmerich, out of my home church, made the comment, humility allowed, he's not out of there now, he's out of Minnesota now, but originally out of my home church. He said, humility allowed the prodigal back to the house. Self-righteousness, pride led the elder
Thank you.
brother
Thank you.
to be on the outside when the party was happening. So great comment from evangelist Jay Emmerich. If you're looking for a good evangelist, that's a good one to tag in with. So you can check him out on social media. I also do want to mention, Kim, before we go, just as a reminder, we have Great Lakes Youth Convention
Yes.
coming up. It is just right around the corner. That is going to be held July 31st through August 2nd, Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Mhm.
And we did get confirmation there has been a price reduction on registration, so you can go check that out right now. $40 to register. That gets you everything, and great speakers: Landon Gore, Luke St. Clair, Jesse Arthur. The Dillingham brothers are going to be there, and so it's going to be a
Mm.
great time. So
It
go check
gets
it
you
out.
everything. It
Great
gets you
Lakes
everything.
Great Lakes Youth Convention.org. Go check that out. Thanks
Yep.
for joining us today on this great conversation, important topic, important subject. We appreciate your engagement in it. We look forward to coming back to you next Tuesday around 10 o'clock. Until then, go live mobilized. God bless.